like to make a comment about, that people keep talking about, my work with Aboriginal people, but what that has done for me basically is to provide me with a set of practices and understandings that I'm able to apply in a whole range of contexts. That in the US, I've worked with African American and Hispanic groups, very mainstream groups. I've worked in East Timor, using the processes that I use in that I've learned in these Aboriginal contexts has been incredibly successful for me in a whole range of other contexts. So it's not just about exotic Aboriginal people, it's about what I learn about myself, my practices, what I understand, and how I work with other people, especially people who are somewhat different from me.
Do you want to talk about these books?
No, you talk about them.
But this book here is a lovely story of work that Ernie has done on your own. Not on your own, obviously, but in conjunction with Aboriginal communities about building a breakfast club for the children. And the story is their story. You guys would love it. I'll have to show it to you next time. And it's pictures of the kids coming from home to school and getting to school and with their parents, making the materials for breakfast and then sharing the breakfast together. And it finishes off at the end of the book. Breakfast gives the kids lots of energy.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
To learn and play.
Yeah.
And so it's research at the most powerful level, I think, showing how a community has worked together for the good of the whole community to support the kids in their learning by providing basic nutrients on the school property. Do you want to add to that?
Just that I assisted the women to, that was their idea actually, in conjunction with speaking with the principal about how they could help at the school, the idea of a breakfast for the kids before school. Now, what this did, and the women understood this, was bring the kids to school, because school started before a large part of the community was awake. So the kids would hang around home waiting for their families to wake before they went to school. Sometimes they were so late that they didn't bother to go to school. When the school breakfast started, they all went to school because they knew they were going to be fed and have a good breakfast before school started. So there was an immediate impact there. But then the people who were doing that weren't any of the teachers or the administrative staff, but their mums and their aunts and their grandmas. And they clearly felt really happy about that. So it just changed the whole nature of the context. It was beautiful to see. As that time went by, the women themselves said, we need to be telling the story of this school breakfast program. So I sat with them. They were asked, in fact, to give a little presentation on a webinar. And I sat with them and said, what do you want to say about your school breakfast? So we looked at pictures. We took photographs of them giving the school breakfast, and they said what they wanted to say about each of the photographs. And I wrote it down, very simple words. That became the script that they read from for their webinar. I stood behind the camera with cue cards, and they read that. And that was eventually translated into this book, which I absolutely love. It's 5 years old now. They still sit there and read it. The other aspect that was that just in the last year, as a result of requests from them, we got funds to do a whole range of other stories about other work that they and other groups are engaged in. Do you want to take over from that? Well, we've got another book. So there were 24 books.
Wow.
Community life done by and with a number of community groups, which talks about community life, their work, some of the cultural stuff like digging for barty grubs and honey ants. But it's their work, and they just love the stories.
The other thing I really like about this one, you've heard me rant about the fact that Irish is not used extensively in Ireland, and it makes me sorry. But this is also written in both English and in the language of that particular Aboriginal nation. So you've got the story being told from two perspectives there.
So just to put it in Jack's terms, what they're doing is telling stories of their lived experience, the things that really are important to them in their own way, in their own language, because the stories are bilingually told in the books. Mm. So there's a whole range of ways in which it emerges as what I think of as an action research process.
Yes.
We sit with the women, they determine which groups they're going to approach. The groups themselves tell how they want the story told. The photographs are taken, they talk about the photographs. So it all comes out in their own terms. And we're facilitating this and providing some of the administrative and technical background to their ability to capture their own lived experience. And the joy they have in that is just palpable. When they and the kids sit around reading their stories, there is just such joy in their face. I always think of Jack. I see that happening. It's a beautiful thing.
I must say,
so this beauty of the lived experience we need to be able to capture. And if your students can capture that joy and vitality as they learn about their own stuff, then telling their story in a range of ways might be possible. It's delightful.